So this is the second video in my short series about things I miss about Buenos Aires and Argentina. And in this video, I want to talk about the bohemian atmosphere that I find that is unique to Buenos Aires and Argentina. And normally, you would maybe expect me to talk only about Buenos Aires in this sense, but I will actually talk about both these aspects. So that's maybe kind of strange for some tango dancers who have never been outside of Buenos Aires, but you might be able to understand the similarities I'm going to talk about. Um, but yeah, from the moment I arrive in Buenos Aires, I feel it's almost like I'm going back in time, and I feel like I enter some kind of place that has gotten stuck in the past, and I'm not talking about that in a negative sense, like because Argentina is a poorer country than most countries in Europe, so some things are lesser developed there. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a certain kind of very authentic, um, yeah, feeling you just get from the place and from walking around its streets and entering restaurants and cafes. Of course, the tango scene itself, the kind of buildings they host places, they host milongas in. It's everywhere, and of course, you might be familiar with all the beautiful architecture in Buenos Aires, but it has something, yes, almost gritty. Like it's less well kept than some other places in the world because there's simply not the required amount of money to keep all these things in an optimal condition. But I think it's also a certain charm that you can just walk through a lot of streets in Buenos Aires and you see these buildings uh, that are at least 120 years old. And I'm not talking about like the spectacular big buildings, but like all the little streets with all the low these wide low colonial style houses. Some places are better kept than others, and some will probably be demolished because they're not being taken care of and nobody really cares about it. While other other places are restored in a very beautiful fashion. So I'm talking about some kind of ambience you feel when you're on the streets. And from the first moment I arrived in Buenos Aires, that was not when I was a tango dancer yet, but um, it just felt like this magical place that I immediately wanted to explore. And last year I went to Munich in Germany, um, and obviously Germany is a country that's generally doing better than Argentina. But I found that while I was in that city, that I don't know if it's something that has to do with globalization, but if you look at the shops and the restaurants and the cafes and the bars, like all I see over there, maybe not somewhere in the outskirts of the city, but just in the nice area, so to say, where you would go if you're a tourist. Um, there's just this copy paste stuff going on there. Like all these things look the same. Like they have a certain modern urban style from the 21st century, and everything is just kind of the same. And when I'm in Argentina, I really feel like um, when you go to these cafes or restaurants, that it's just this ambience is so authentic and it's so powerful. Um, and I can really miss when I think about Buenos Aires. Well, actually, recently I watched a video about something from Buenos Aires, and it wasn't even necessarily directly about what I'm talking about, but it's just the moment you start breathing in this ambience that is present in Argentina. It's just like it feels like a magical place where, like I said, time has stood still, and you also get like this bohemian feeling of it's almost like it's the perfect place for artists in a sense. um and I can see so many of these urban landscapes in my memories, right now of certain streets, and it's just so damn beautiful. At the same time, like I was talking about the way things are not always so well kept there, I also think that Buenos Aires can be quite ugly and sometimes even depressing. So that's kind of the downside to what I'm telling here. And of course, it would probably be better if everything was well kept. But there are also places in Buenos Aires where there's a lot of like gentrification going on, and it kind of like some of these areas start to look much more like all these other places in the world that are kind of similar. So I don't want to criticize it too much, but when I think about, I haven't been there for 7 years, I think, 6 years, and it's still something I can miss almost every day. This feeling like, wow, I'm in Argentina, and I've traveled to quite a lot of places, but I've never felt anything like that anywhere else, not even in Spain and Italy, which are two very characteristic, very like historically interesting places that are kind of similar. But Argentina just has something that's really magic. And talking about the rest of the country, I've also traveled quite extensively through the rest of the country, and it's like every Argentine town and village, it all has a similar feel. Um, Even I was even thinking when preparing this video a bit, I was even thinking of my visits to vineyards and in Mendoza and just all these other places where I've been. It's just so incredibly atmospheric, and I'm starting to repeat myself here, but I just wanted to say it's not only Buenos Aires, and Argentina is a really beautiful country, and I hope you can visit it. Um, if you have never been there, or if you've only been for tango in Buenos Aires, I hope you can get a chance to visit the rest of the country because it's an extremely beautiful country. They have a lot of problems, and it's very sad. But I also think there's a lot they can and should be proud of. And yes, that's what I wanted to say today. Let's see if I have any remaining things on my mind here. Um, so there's nothing particular I could think of that I haven't mentioned already. But one thing for sure is that I'm going to mention, like, I'm going to elaborate on some of these aspects I've mentioned in my other videos. And the next one will be about the people. So I think one of the biggest attractions of Buenos Aires and Argentina are its people. And I'll tie what I said today into that as well.